All right, it's jokey joke time here on Red Corner, Blue Corner. We've got jokes from ChatGPT. Y'all know the AI, and we had our producer Dennis get these jokes about one another. So Jake, I'm going to let you have the floor first here on this one.
Yeah, so I actually really liked this joke, and I thought that this is a good sign for ChatGPT because I thought they were playing off the Lou Holtz soft comments earlier in the year. Why did Ohio State Buckeyes apply for the job at the bakery? Because they wanted to be well-rounded pastries, just like their football team.
I really don't get it.
You don't get it? Like a pastry's soft and fluffy, like a croissant is soft.
It's not really striking me, honestly. Like, that's the crazy part about it.
For a robot, I think that's a pretty solid. I think it's a well-rounded joke. You know, would you ever want to be called a pastry?
No, I absolutely would not. Would you like to hear the one about you?
Yeah, I'd like to.
I think it's pretty good.
Let's see what they say.
Why did Jake Butt start a fitness program? Because he knew how to keep things in shape, just like his tight end position.
Okay.
The tight end joke.
I get it. Yeah, tight end. That's a new one. I've heard a lot of Jake Butt jokes in my time, but I haven't heard that one actually.
Oh man,
I wish I had a program to sell right now.
Whoever thought we would get the fanny shot from Jake Butt on Red Corner?
I'm trying to help out ChatGPT with the marketing.
What a time. So I guess the conclusion here is if AI is going to be writing jokes like this, I think humans are mostly safe because that was terrible. But this is Red Corner, Blue Corner right here on Stadium. We're excited to see you all. That is Jake Butt, the All-American tight end from the University of Michigan.
And this is Joshua Perry. And Joshua, I just had a conversation. I'm calling the Penn State UMass game. Don Brown is notorious for having a bad pinky. I heard you have a historically interesting pinky. Okay, so it's locked in that position?
Yeah, it's done.
Okay.
Can I get the single real quick just so I can show America?
There you go.
This thing ain't.
So that's Joshua Perry, captain, national champion, NFL linebacker,
Captain
college
Hook.
linebacker, but Captain Hook, yeah, with the pinky there. So,
oh, man. And we want to welcome everybody into this show as well. We are an interactive program here. We want you to get involved, so we have a YouTube chat that is popping every day. We put your comments up there on the screen. Sometimes we discuss them. We have a QR code on the screen that we want you to scan as well, so you can jump in on today's poll. Where does James Franklin rank among Big Ten coaches? As we mentioned, we love getting the comments and the questions from our fans, and we're starting with this video that was sent in by Nolan.
Hey RCBC guys, Nolan Hawley here, longtime listener, first-time caller. I had a quick question about James Franklin because he got brought up yesterday in the chat. Where do you guys think he ranks as far as current FBS coaches? Thanks so much. Have a great show.
Where does James Franklin rank?
Look, that's a really hard question to give a rigid ranking at this point. Here's what I know. I will give him his respect and say he's one of the best coaches in college football. He recruits really well. Penn State is consistently there competing towards the top of the Big Ten and in the Big Ten East, which is one of the more competitive divisions in all of college football. So I'll give him the respect there. He's not, to me, he's not in the top 5, maybe fringe top 10. He's done a good job, but as you can see there, the keys to look at is his record versus the best 2 in the East. Struggled against Ohio State, only 1 win, and struggled versus Michigan. So not the best, but better than a lot, and there's a lot worse coaches than James Franklin out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we go through the Big Ten, and some people maybe have some recency bias about what they think about Ryan Day, but the record, I think, shows against Ohio State, and some of those games are against Ryan Day, hasn't beaten him yet. You'd probably say that he is 3rd in the Big Ten, Jim Harbaugh, Ryan Day. Then you start to look nationally. I would take a James Franklin over a Lincoln Riley personally because I think his teams are more well-rounded. The Sabans are going to be up there. Kirby Smart's going to be up there. Where does a guy like Kalen DeBoer, who hasn't been around for a ton, where do you put him considering the success that Washington had last year and they're having this year? I think you lean into James Franklin's track record maybe when you have that discussion, particularly what he did at Vanderbilt too. Like, that was a big deal. So top 10 coach in the sport, probably.
Yeah, I think we fall right in line. I would challenge him, how you can get to the next level is having a big marquee win, a playoff win, competing for they got the team to do it this year.
Yeah, I mean, they could get 2 of them in conference this year, and then you never know what happens after that. And I think that's what most people are expecting, that they'll really be able to compete with Ohio State and Michigan. Now, one thing James Franklin has done while at Penn State is schedule aggressively. In recent years, they've taken on multiple Power 5 teams, and this year they have one of the top strengths of schedule in the country. But this week, James Franklin took time to call out another Big Ten school for their scheduling.
There's a team in this conference specifically that's buying out of a ton of game contracts that are already signed to go in the complete opposite direction. So, no, I don't think it's changed. I would say you could even make the argument it's magnified, and that's why people are changing their schedules because you look at who people are going to have to play just in our conference. It's going to be even more challenging than it's ever been.
That was a direct shot at your alma mater.
Yeah.
So how do you respond to that?
Look, I mean, we can call Michigan's schedule this year extremely favorable. You could probably, if you hate Michigan, you could call it patty cake, right? I mean, they haven't been challenged. I think that's fair. But we talk about recency bias too, right? Michigan historically has played like a Notre Dame every year.
Sure.
You go back a few years and they play Washington. That wasn't Michigan's fault that wasn't Washington's year either. That's still a big brand. We see what they're capable of this year. But really, the overlying theme here, the theme that goes above all of this, Penn State and Michigan face each other every single year.
Right.
So that's, if you're going to, that's the game I'm looking at. Like, outside of that, it doesn't matter what you say for their out of conference. You have a chance every single year as James Franklin and Penn State to prove your point on the field. And they have not done that.
Yeah, I mean, my response to James Franklin on this is I think we have to add context to when and why some of these contracts were bought out. We remember the COVID year. That was difficult on a lot of athletic departments. And coming out of that year, and this is before Michigan knew that they could set up a soft schedule and run the table and make it to the college football playoff because they had not done it. This was before Michigan said we could set it up so we can have a nice little ramp-up period to win a Big Ten championship game because they had not done it yet, right? They're trying to recoup losses so they could get some more home games back, if we're being completely honest about this. And I don't think any athletic director would be at fault for doing this. It's in the best interest of their university and their athletes and their coaches. So as much as I would hate to come on a program and defend Michigan, I think that there is a sensible financial reason why something like this could happen. And regardless, they're still really good. They could have scheduled anybody this year just about, and it feels like it would have been a dub for them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what was Penn State's big? You play Auburn last year.
They weren't good.
They weren't good.
Right.
It's a big game in the moment. The
right.
context says maybe not as challenging as you thought, James Franklin. So, Joshua, as we pivot here, we talk about scheduling. There's been some big news in the Big Ten Conference as after the additions of Oregon and Washington, there has been a new scheduling model. And here's the three keys: balance travel by distance, maintain control and flexibility as college football continues to evolve, and then balance competitiveness. So with that in mind, we got about 5 years of matchups. It's not specific dates that have come out, but you know who you're going to play. Just general thoughts here, Joshua, on the Big Ten scheduling model going forward.
I mean, travel is going to be an issue, and I know the schools on the West Coast would say it's not very balanced. Like, sorry, guys, that's the cost of doing business. You wanted to get into the Big Ten, you're going to have to travel a little bit more. I think they did as good of a job as they could trying to make that favorable to where, you know, if you're Southern Cal, you're not going to have to fly out to Maryland. You're not going to fly out to Rutgers, all those kinds of things. When we talk about the flexibility as college football evolves and the playoff scenario evolves, that's the whole point about when you bring in more premium brands and teams that are playing really well right now, you want to make sure it does not bite you in the behind, because you could be looking at a really good team in the Big Ten next year that has 3 losses. But if their resume says that the 3 losses were to 3 teams that are, you know, top 7, top 8 teams, they should be in the top 12, right? Like, that's a team that can make it to the playoff, and you want to have that chance there at the end. But the competitive balance is the issue that I've had with the Big Ten for a long time, where nobody from the West has ever won the Big Ten championship game. It has not been balanced at all. The fact that we are creating a scenario where if you're in the East, it is not necessarily, or if you're a team that was in the East, you will not have the gauntlet that has always been there. So a Maryland probably feels better about their setup. Rutgers probably feels better about their setup. I think down south, it's a very similar thing. They would tell you it's a big difference between the SEC East and the SEC West. Like, they should look at a model similar to this for when their expansion comes.
Yeah, and not only that, I think SEC should look at this and try to add another conference game too. I think think really what you have, because this comes at the time of an expanding playoff. So in a 4-team playoff, you're incentivized to schedule the way Michigan has these past few years, because if you have more than one loss, you're out.
Never happened before.
In a 12-team playoff, you can schedule bigger games and still get in, which means revenue for the conference, which means funding for the conference, which means growth. So all that's good for the Big Ten. One key word that, a couple key words that stood out to me was the conference wants to maintain flexibility in the changing college football landscape. I think that is extremely important, because the one thing we have learned over these past few years is that the only constant is change. There could be further change on a year-to-year basis going forward. There will be change going forward. So for the Big Ten to just kind of build in that insurance to say, we don't know what tomorrow will bring, but we're going to maintain control and flexibility.
If they don't do that, they end up like the Pac-12, right?
Exactly.
Where you're staring down a future that is extremely uncertain for the couple of schools that remain there on the West Coast. So I like it. I always think that the Big Ten has been forward thinking in a lot of ways when it comes to innovation and different scheduling things, obviously TV agreements and whatnot that help to enrich the athletic departments in the university. So I'm here for all this.
Forward thinking. How's Michigan's athletic department doing in that department? Are they forward thinking? Because one thing we do know is Jim Harbaugh is a Michigan man, but now we have to start to ask the question, how long? Well, we got the inside scoop. That's coming up in just a few. And remember to stick with us for Inside the Association at 3 p.m. Eastern. The guys have all the latest on Anthony Davis' new role as a new Splash Brother. Find out what that's all about right here on Stadium.
We are back on Red Corner, Blue Corner right here on Stadium. Jake Butt joining me. I'm Joshua Perry, and now it's time to go across the Big Ten for a mic check. And we're going to start in Ann Arbor, Michigan, where we're still waiting for an announcement about Jim Harbaugh's contract extension. Here's what he had to say about it on Monday.
Like anybody, I mean, and I said you want to be somewhere where you wanted, and what they like what you do and how you do it, and then they tell you that, your bosses tell you that, and then that gets reflected in a contract. But yeah, bottom line, any of us, right? I mean, that's what we want to be, somewhere where they like how you do it and what you do. I mean, that's been a kind of a 3.5-year thing about what that is. So eventually gets put into a contract. I mean, I don't know, can't say that any more clearly, and definitely open to that. I think I've shown that, through the years.
Eventually, it gets put into a contract. They like what you do and how you do it, Jake. I mean, what do you think?
Look, if you're Ward Manuel, if you're President Santa Ono of Michigan, you have to get this deal done. You have to get this deal done. Jim Harbaugh is the guy for Michigan. I go back to when they asked him to take a pay cut back around the COVID year, right? Because the program wasn't performing to standard. And okay, you can do that, and Jim accepted it. And then ever since then, every offseason has come up and he's flirted with, is Jim going to go to the NFL or not? Well, you have the chance right now with your head coach, as the Big Ten is going through change, to ink in a long-term deal. Give him what he wants. You're just communicating to Coach Harbaugh, we want you here and we're going to pay you accordingly.
It would be interesting for me in terms of a long-term deal, what it looks like, because the thing that I've noticed is the buyouts nowadays are really high for the school to fire the coach, but not for the coach to leave for another job. And in a lot of these scenarios, they say if you want to leave for the NFL, the buyout's lower than if you were leaving for another college job. That would be the thing to me that tells me about long-term security in terms of Jim Harbaugh wanting to go to the NFL. I'm with you 100% on the fact that this man has earned a new contract. The university is probably looking at his current deal and saying, all right, we paid this guy $11 million last year based off of incentives. He's doing all right. Plus, we got the NCAA still breathing down our neck because there hasn't been a resolution there. And we don't know if we want to lock a guy in long-term where we're going to be paying him for games that he might not be around. Very interesting, but he deserves the money. He's doing a hell of a job.
He should be the highest paid coach in the Big Ten,
Agreed.
right? He's earned that right at this point in time. Okay, let's head over to New Jersey and let's check in with the 4-2 Rutgers Scarlet Knights as they're getting ready to host the Michigan State Spartans. Greg Schiano addressed the must-win mentality for his team in this matchup.
What's must? Like, I just never have felt that in my career. I put every game's a must-win to me. I mean, I wake up in the morning, that's all I think about. I go to bed. So what more can you do? To me, every game is you give it every single thing you got. If you start looking at this game is more important than that game. If I coach different against Wagner than I did against Wisconsin, then shame on me. They should get rid of me, right? I mean, the preparation is the same. The attitude's the same. The focus is the same. That's what professionals do, and that's what I fully expect from our staff every week. This is a big game. It's a Big Ten game. They're all big.
Joshua, what is must?
Must is that thing you smell in the locker room after the guys get done practicing, Coach Schiano, if you were curious about what that is. I understand the heart behind what he's saying, right? Every game's a must win. Like, you don't go out and coach a game where you're coaching to lose it. But I do think that there is a sense of urgency that becomes different when you're running out of chances to make it to a bowl game specifically for these guys. So that's why this is a must win. It's a matchup opponent. You got Michigan State, matchup opponent. You got Indiana. That's another matchup opponent. By then, you could be looking at a bowl, right? Like, I think that's when people talk about the must-win scenario, because Ohio State going to be hard to get, Maryland's going to be hard to get, Penn State's going to be hard to get. That's what people are talking about when they say a must-win for Rutgers.
Yeah, you got 2 weeks right here against Michigan State and Indiana before your bye, and those are 2 winnable games. You could be heading into your bye with a little bit of an exhale, saying, okay, we've already made a bowl game. I agree. You give everything you got. But when you think about a must-win game, let's just think about maybe some trick plays or some gadget plays. You're probably not going to run those against Ohio State, right? You know you're outmatched. In a game where you need to win, maybe that's where you kind of pull out all the bags, all the bags of tricks, and you leave it all on the table, understanding, yes, coach, you try to win every game, of course. But this is one that you really can win on your path to trying to get to 6.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a fun matchup when you're talking about people that have urgency behind their programs and maybe a game that's not super big. This means a lot to all of them. But on the other sideline for this one, Harlan Barnett has a decision to make at quarterback. So take a listen to how he's handling it.
We're still evaluating it. It's a good competition going on, and you know, I'm doing my Belichick again a little bit right now, but we've you know, it's going to be good. Guys know where they stand and what's going to happen, and so we'll just leave it at that for now.
He's doing his Bill Belichick. It's one of his mentors. Nick Saban does a similar thing. One of his mentors. What do you take away?
It's going to be good. It'll be good if you win. It'll be good if you clean up some mistakes. It'll be good if the team looks good. You know, look, at this point, this season, they're just in such a tough position, right? He's in a position he most likely didn't expect to be. This has been a competition that's went on for a few months now. So this is just kind of, to me, it's a metaphor of the state of where the team is at. It has been tough sledding. Don't know who your quarterback, you don't feel good about your quarterback position enough to say firmly, this is our guy this week.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is they're second guessing because Noah Kim has not played well in games. But there's a reason why Caden Hauser also has not really played that much this year. Is he hasn't practiced well. So if you don't practice well, how am I supposed to believe that you're going to play well in games? And quite frankly, I don't think the way that they're using Noah Kim is to the best of his abilities. This dude's actually a really good athlete. They let him use his legs a little bit more. I think he could open up the pass game. It's a little bit too much dropping back for him, and he's got to sift through reads, and I'm not sure that's his game. Rollouts, bootlegs, and then the use of his legs, I think, make this offense a better attacking offense.
If you haven't practiced well and you're going to try to make it happen, you're kind of guessing, right? You realize the team, you're guessing, and that has its own risks.
Yeah, I mean, Urban used to always say, I don't want gamers, I want practicers. Right?
Because practicers become gamers.
Exactly. All right, we're going to take a break right here on Red Corner, Blue Corner. But coming up, it's time for the conference clash as the guys from Rivals Down South join us. Stick around to see the photo that T-Bob does not want you to see. Ooh, a little blackmail going on. That's coming up next right here, the Red Corner, Blue Corner. Oh, it's that time for a conference clash, and we got the guys from Rivals Down South here. We got T-Bob, A-Bear, and SEC. Mike, fellas, how we feeling today?
I'm feeling disconcerted
yes,
here. I don't know. The tease had something to do with the picture and blackmail. So what you got, Joshua? But let's see what you got for me.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be talking about which conference has the better game day atmosphere, but our producer does a great job of prepping the show. He told us we've got something really good here to show the people at home. Look at this.
Okay, no, that is not me. That is also not me.
Are we sure?
Not true. To be painfully clear.
I think you might be wearing the same jacket this guy's wearing in the photo, right?
I mean, what a day for me to rock the all purple when you accuse me of being this man right here.
I think it's you.
That is clearly a man who just had to sit through watching Mississippi State in 2020 put up like 700 yards with KJ Costello in game number 1. That man is none too. That's like one of those fans you can tell he's miserable, but he's a hardcore, never going to leave the fan before the clock hits, or never leave the game before the clock hits 0 guy. That's the passion in the SEC, okay?
Yeah.
Not like you highfalutin noon kickoff boys who got to go to your soirees and get coffee afterwards.
Oh, what are you talking about soirees? I mean, like, y'all literally have tents with, like, chandeliers in them. So if we're going to talk about highfalutin, let's not bring that on the Big Ten, okay? Because we are a very blue-collar conference. You guys wouldn't understand that because you don't actually ever come up to play games in Big Ten country. It gets a little bit too cold for you softies down there. But let me tell you, game day goes crazy, even at noon. We won't have to wait for the sun to go down.
You can't party in slacks in a sport coat either, right? If I want to party, I'm representing my team and I'm cracking open a cold beer.
Oh, okay. Mike, tell them that we don't claim Ole Miss.
You just took the words out of my mouth. I mean, they haven't been relevant since the 1960s, so they got to do something to stand out because it ain't on the football field. It's their grove, it's their party, what have you. They say they never lose a party. That's because they never win an important football game. So, yeah, I'll give them that one. Ole Miss is a joke.
How about this, boys?
Go ahead.
I want to ask the Big Ten boys, what is the best? Because you're right, it bums me out. I never get to go to these environments. I see the whiteout on TV. It looks incredible. Big House looks incredible. Shoe looks incredible. What is the best Big Ten game day atmosphere?
We'd probably agree, right?
Yeah, whiteout at Penn State.
Yep.
Yeah, by far. And I played in 2 of them. I got to cover one earlier this year. It's ridiculous. The buy-in is what really sells it, right? Because Penn State's in the middle of nowhere. You got all these people coming in. They're all coordinated. I think it's great. I'm going to be completely honest on this one. I'll give you guys the win on the game day atmosphere. Like the Big House, it's not that exciting. The Horseshoe, it doesn't get that turn up unless it's like a night game. Like it's not that fun, honestly.
Even Beaver Stadium kind of hits it.
I kind of feel that.
We need night games.
And look, now it's time for Rivals Down South. And welcome to the night games, boys, because the Big Ten's finally going to start playing them. We're very excited. The TV takeover continues. Look, and that's like, okay, people talk about Death Valley. And Joshua, you're actually, you know what, since we're all being nice and this is a trust tree, Death Valley doesn't always hit what its reputation precedes it to be anymore, right? Like this weekend against Auburn, I think it will. It's a night game. It's a big SEC opponent. But, you know, sometimes fans get a little spoiled. I will say, though, when you got a bunch of Cajun people that have been drinking from the first thing when they wake up, like there's nothing gimmicky, there's no chandeliers or anything. It's just if you love smoking, you love alcohol, you love day drinking and night drinking, you love South Louisiana cuisine like gumbo, jambalaya, sauce pecan, boucherie if it's Arkansas week, fried gator when it's Florida. Death Valley at its best is just a madhouse of debauchery and sin. Yeah. And I think that's why it's probably so much fun. Mike, but y'all got some cool stuff going on in Tennessee, dude.
Yeah, no doubt. But I'll credit you, T-Bob, because LSU is the closest thing I've been to a music festival. So, yeah, I think LSU's atmosphere is unmatched. Tennessee at night, the swamp, Florida. I mean, I was a little kid. I got beer. It wasn't beer. It was urine poured on me in a beer cup. I was about 7 years old. That's when I came to respect the swamp and how hostile they could be to Tennessee people down there.
Yikes.
Oh, man.
I mean, I will say, like, I experienced Kinnick an Iowa game at night for the first time this year, and they're bad right now. Michigan State was bad. Atmosphere was on point. You want to talk about some people that can really drink? They were drinking out there. If you ever been to Camp Randall, jump around. My goodness, like one of the great traditions. Also a really fun place to watch a football game.
Big Ten's just getting around to serving alcohol at stadiums too. What's the percentage of SEC schools that are serving alcohol during games?
I think it's less than it was a couple weeks ago because I think Ole Miss had to ban it for a little bit because a bunch of people got angry and threw a bunch of drinks and trash on the field after LSU scored late. But it's getting there. But the thing is, dude, look, whether it's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party we're ever at in the SEC, and it's the same in the Big Ten, necessity is the mother of invention. And we can all appreciate the different ways in which people have found to sneak alcohol into venues.
Absolutely.
Whether it's in a bra, a sandal that turns into a flask, like it's unreal. What you got, Josh?
Yeah, so I had a friend who would love to sneak alcohol into these venues, and what she said is she would put the mini bottles in a bag, and then she would put tampons on top of the mini bottle. Then she would find the youngest dude working security because he wasn't going to want to sift through all of that. He was going to see the tampons and be like, I'm good. This is not a thing I want to get into. And so she would have her mini bottles ready to go during the games.
I once met a Swedish girl at Mardi Gras who told me that they used to soak tampons in vodka and keister it. Super aggressive, very dangerous, I would later find out, but I will never forget it. We're in some random hotel room in New Orleans. I mean, it is burned into my brain, boys.
Yeah, that would be
I would also say,
burned into mine, too.
Mike mentioned the swamp. The thing about the swamp is it's built straight up, okay? I don't know about the tailgating, but the actual, it's built straight up. It holds in all that sound, and what you got to imagine is it's 90,000 Florida men. And this is a non-gender specific Florida man. Like, I don't mean literal man, but it's 90,000 Florida citizens just losing their mind after a day of drinking and wearing jorts and hot weather and mullets. It is insane. I would love to see jump around at Camp Randall for what that's worth.
That's what makes Penn State special. It's vertical. That's what kind of hurts the big house. There's not a bad seat in the house, but it's more out than high. But I don't know if I missed this because we got an LSU guy and we got SEC Mike. What is the best atmosphere in the SEC if you had to pick one?
If I had to pick one, again, it's probably LSU, but one everybody sleeps on, I think, is Jordan Hare. Well, I'll give you, speaking of keistering, you want an entertaining read? Google University of Tennessee butt chug. That was a national story about 10 years ago. So, yeah, we have a good time there at Tennessee running through the tee. It smells more like Jack Daniels than it does football at a night game there in Neyland Stadium. I love it.
There is a press conference where a lawyer's standing in front of a bunch of Tennessee frat boys, and he literally is having to legally explain butt chugging and why it's wrong. And my God, it is an all-time good internet. But Mike, this is what I've always wanted to do. Have you ever gone tailgating on the boats in Knoxville? Because y'all have like actual water tailgating.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They call it the Vol Navy for a reason. And you just knew that game, Georgia State, horrific upset if you're a Tennessee man. They had one of the boats burned down right before the game. And that was basically the end of Jeremy Pruitt, because you knew once the Navy started catching on fire, there was no hope for the University of Tennessee. Thank God Josh Heupel has saved us.
A literal omen from the tailgate gods. Well, look, Joshua, Jake, I think we can all agree on this, right? Is that, again, Big Ten's about to be the Uber Conference. SEC is about to be an Uber Conference. Both are playing night games. TV's taking over. Like, we have to get more SEC on Big Ten matchups.
Yeah,
we got. It needs to happen.
I'm with that. I think we would all enjoy it. It would give a little bragging rights, and everybody can lean into it. And then I don't know about how people down south are, but the people here in the Midwest understand that they want to see the rest of America, because as much fun as we have here, it ain't the greatest part of the country, and we'll travel. It'll be a fun game day atmosphere.
Look, man, there's a reason why the Midwest and the South both love football so much, because, like, there's not a lot to do. Economically, things are challenging in a lot of these places. We just want to drink, raise our families, and watch football on Saturday and Sundays. It's awesome. We're more alike than you think. It's just, you are right. I am so soft when it gets cold. We used to have to play in 50 degrees at Arkansas. I might as well have been freezing. Thought I'd gotten tossed out to Siberia. Hate it. Boys, red corner, blue corner, y'all are the best. Have a great day, and I'm sure we will be seeing you soon. Unfortunately, it's Joshua Perry, Jake. But right now, it's time to talk a little Tennessee SEC, Mike, as they got a big one coming up in Neyland this weekend. And if Tennessee's going to beat Texas A&M, it's going to be with the running game. And look at this trio, this three-headed monster in Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, and Dylan Sampson. Mike, I want to break down this game, but first, here's what Dylan Sampson had to say about being part of such a talented running back room.
When you go into our running back room, it's just the mentality we choose to step on the field with. The mentality we put on when we put our cleats on at practice, it's to be the best. Practice the best, play the best, and it's just that mentality. Like, first guy not going to bring us down, man. Like, there's no drop-off when you put either one of us in the game, and we give all for Tennessee every time we touch that field.
So that ain't just talk. That ain't, they're walking that walk right now. Tennessee leading the SEC in rushing, the only team over 6 yards per attempt right now, like the entire team over 6 yards per attempt. But A&M's come to town, and they are by far the best rush defense in the league. 80 yards a game, the only team allowing less than 3 yards per carry. Good on good. Something's got to give, Mike. How are you scoring this one?
Yeah, you referenced Tennessee, the number one rushing attack in the SEC. T-Bob, they're 12th in attempts. So they're getting the most out of every carry they get with a trio there. But here's the problem, T-Bob. Like you said, A&M, number one in the SEC defending the run. Bama 4, that's their next one. Kentucky number 2, Mizzou number 5, and Georgia number 3. That's their next 5. SEC is the entire conference that's good at stopping the run. So we'll find out how good Tennessee is for real, and it starts on Saturday. I think it's going to come down to Joe Milton. I really do, and I get getting enamored with the rushing attack, but A&M's going to stifle it because they're going to sell out. They're going to make Joe Milton beat them. Brew McCoy, receivers out for the season. The receivers are down. They've not been nearly as productive as we thought. I think this one, they're going to force Joe Milton to beat him, and I don't know if he can do it.
Well, and I wanted to talk a bit about Brew McCoy, if you could expound on it, because, look, last week, A&M forced Jalen Milroe in Alabama into a very similar spot, right? And he did it a lot by relying on Jermaine Burton. Well, now you don't even have McCoy. Is there anybody left on this Tennessee team, Mike, that you think can kind of help, pick up Milton, say, okay, look, if it comes down to us, we can get this done?
Yeah, name to know, and if he has a big game, he's going to be a national star. Squirrel White. He's kind of the next Jalen Hyatt, smaller guy, diminutive guy, but he has been their most explosive playmaker at the receiver position. But for some reason, they've just been doing dinking, diving all the way down the field with a lot of screens, and they use Brew McCoy as that lead blocker. He's a hulk of a wide receiver. I don't think they have another guy like that on the roster. So, again, they're going to have to push the ball down the field. Squirrel White, another guy to keep your eye on, Dante Thornton, Oregon transfer. He has been non-existent, but he was their big get out of the transfer portal. They desperately need Dante Thornton to show something this week against Texas A&M.
Now, one thing about this game is because I gotta be honest, Mike, I'm kind of on A&M here. I'm still thinking about it though. Tennessee is coming off of the bye, which I do like, and it's in Neyland. And Neyland in October, it's orange is the reason for the season. It's just it feels a little bad for A&M. I know you are someone who I would not describe as a very big Jimbo Fisher fan. What do you think it would do to your mental state were Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher to go into Neyland and emerge with an October victory?
Yeah, and to your point, A&M should win this game. They should have a massive advantage on the line of scrimmage, which that's where in this league games are decided. But Tennessee's won 13 in a row at home. A&M's lost 7 true road games in a row. So there's factors that also favor Tennessee. A&M should win, but I dress like a clown. The real clown is Jimbo Fisher. He should have been fired last year. He'll be fired in about a month after he loses a couple more games. as long as Jimbo Fisher is the head coach of Texas A&M, I will never bet on that team ever again. So Tennessee finds a way somehow. A&M's a better team. Tennessee will win the game.
Speaking of clowns, coming up next year, Rivals Down South, we'll tell you how Billy Napier is attempting to fix Florida's road woes. We got a very good battle for second place in the SEC East as well. Stick around, Rivals Down South. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Rivals Down South. YouTube.com/Watch Stadium. If you want to get involved in the chat. All 8 Sound Sports says, I went to a game at Purdue and they were reading books at the tailgate. Yeah, that feels very Big Ten, a little more academic than maybe we are down here in this part of the country. Let's talk Florida. We teased it right before the break, Mike. The Gators, and it's something that we mentioned a lot going into the game in Lexington, but the Gators have just been really bad on the road under Billy Napier, 1-5 over the last 2 years. And of course, that's now become a talking point as they prepare to head to Columbia, South Carolina. And Billy Napier says, well, don't worry. We're putting together a plan, okay? We're going to get there a little earlier on Friday. We're going to get to the stadium a little earlier on Saturday. We're going to put an emphasis on sleep on Wednesday night. And you have now informed me that they're saying that they're going to take their own pillows instead of those dastardly hotel pillows. Mike, I don't know your opinion. This feels like an objectively awful place to be. If you're a Florida Gator fan and or player and you're trying to explain the road woes by a lack of sweep on a Wednesday as being the reason why you haven't won a road game in nearly 2 years.
T-Bob, if pillows can't save the Florida Gators, what can? You know what I mean? What are we doing here? This is a guy that's supposed to be meticulous. He's got 200 coaches on his staff. They don't know how many players to put out there. This is a joke. And the longer this goes on, the more it's evident that it's not going to work. If they don't win this game, T-Bob, at South Carolina, which is at 2 weeks to prepare, I don't think they're going to go to a bowl game. They may not win another game. I think Arkansas at home is winnable, but that's after the Georgia game, so they're going to be physically beat up from that one. This is a must win, and they better get all the sleep they can because they're going to be sleeping after this game if they don't win it.
Well, and it's kind of interesting, Mike, because it's not so far off from a bit of the same boat as South Carolina, a bit of a mixed bag from South Carolina. I think their season maybe most ultimately discolored by the fact that you lose to UNC in the manner that you did, and maybe preseason we would have assumed that the SEC would have walked in and rolled up UNC. But like, yeah, the loser of like, okay, when you are trying to fight in the middle of the pack for the SEC and you're trying to convince recruits that, okay, we were on the right path, that we can be relevant, we can maybe get to second place, maybe challenge at Georgia. These are the type of games that you must win, okay? And Shane Beamer feels like a coach with a program that is on the cusp of doing that. But if you lose to Florida, who looks to be hapless and kind of in shambles right now, well, then all of a sudden you look up if you're South Carolina and Shane Beamer and you say, wait a second, we're the darlings of the offseason, but like, how happy are we? Like, well, what do you like? How do you score this one from the South Carolina perspective?
Well, they're just in an unfortunate position, T-Bob, where, that we can't use the word rebuild. We don't like that word down here. They've won, they went to bowl games the last 2 years. So I'm not saying they're in shambles, but you can't lose your left tackle. You can't lose who I thought was the best receiver in the country, Juice Wells, and then just replace. They're not there yet. So this is essentially a one-man band. If not for Spencer Rattler, they're probably 1-4 right now. He's been playing so well, but he can't shoulder it all. And we saw that on the road at Tennessee, that he was running for his life. If they could protect him, they will win this football game, but they probably shouldn't because Florida's got a better overall team. But again, it's the road woes. So I kind of lean South Carolina on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I would take Rattler over Mertz. Yeah, but to your point, I don't know where else I would take. I mean, this is just a battle of the bads. Speaking of a battle of the potentially sneaky goods, there's a fight going down for second place in the SEC East, and I like this matchup quite a bit because, again, I still don't know how good Kentucky is, if they're any good at all. I don't know if we should be impressed with Georgia for beating them as badly as they did. What I do know is I kind of like this Mizzou team, and maybe I'm being a prisoner of the moment. But what Luther Burden and Brady Cook have cooking offensively right now is great. And yes, I know Missouri's stellar rush defense took a big step back, giving up 270 to LSU last week. But I don't know. I feel like they're going to have more success against the Big Blue Wall and Ray Davis and Brady Cook. Devin Leary is not. Brady Cook's the second highest rated passer in the SEC right now. Devin Leary, the second lowest. Mike, I like Mizzou. I like Mizzou to win this game and beat Kentucky and kind of assert themselves and say, no, we are the second best team in the SEC East.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know if Mark Stoops was able to buy any players during this week after getting his head crammed in by the Georgia Bulldogs for the 11th, 12th time in a row. He's out here. I can only imagine the quotes he's going to have
14.
When you're right. When
14 in a row.
14 in a row. When Mizzou goes in to Lexington, Kentucky, comes out with a win. I just can't wait to hear what Mark Stoops says because everything you said is right. I mean, we were all building up Devin Leary. That was, I thought, the best addition out of the transfer portal in the quarterback position in the entire country. He has just been a dud. I don't know any other way to say it. I mean, the plays are there. He's not making them. There's drops. There's lack of discipline from Kentucky. How will they respond when they legitimately thought they had and I thought they had a shot at Georgia last week. They didn't stand a shot. Once that game kicked off, it was all Georgia. And I wonder if that, really humbles you. I think it does because you're right. Missouri is not a team to take lightly. And if they don't come with their A game, they're going to get beat.
Yeah, and where does that leave you if you're Kentucky? And this is why Mark Stoops' comments are so potentially damning here, is it's called him into the glare of the national spotlight. If you're just kind of a middle-of-the-pack team, you're trying to make your way, you're trying to keep everybody happy, you rarely want the national glare called down upon you, and yet it has been. And so people are pointing out, wait a second, he's making $8 million a year to basically only win 8 games. Oh, wait a second. He's only beaten 2 SEC teams that have finished with winning conference records. Like all of a sudden, Mark Stoops is out here being just exposed and opened up and dissected in front of all of us. And if you win this, I mean, look, we have it here in the document. Kentucky has 2 double-digit winning seasons under Stoops, 2018 and 2021. Will this be a third? Not if you lose this game. And I don't feel good about them winning. And again, I hate to say it, Mike, but I kind of agree with the red corner, blue corner guys. I don't think that Kentucky should have ever been ranked. They played no one, and then they beat a bad Florida team that cannot win on the road, and everybody put that number next to their name. All right, still to come here on Rivals, a little game that we play every Wednesday. Would you rather Wednesday? Which coach would you trust in a big game? That and more when we get back here on Rivals Down South. Welcome back to Rivals Down South here on Stadium, youtube.com/watch Stadium. It's time for a little Would You Rather Wednesday. Me and SEC Mike holding it down. And shout out to Tennessee and the CFB Hall of Fame as they're going to honor 2023 inductee Eric Berry during halftime of Saturday's A&M game. Ooh, that kind of makes me okay. I love a good honoring at halftime for the home team. But let's play Would You Rather Wednesday. Would you rather, Mike, have Eric Berry or Jamal Adams as your starting safety?
Come on, Eric Berry. He's my favorite Vol of all time. We were in school together, and yeah, he's got a special place in my heart.
Me too, man. We came out of Georgia same year, 07, number 1 player in the state. He was unbelievable. Beats cancer, gets back to being a badass NFL player. I love Jamal Adams, but no, give me Eric Berry 10 times out of 10. Mike, would you rather trust Jimbo Fisher or Lane Kiffin in a must-win game? Whiffin, Kiffin, or Fisher?
Anyone other than Jimbo. So, of course, Lane Kiffin, every day and twice on Saturday. Lane Kiffin's never even lost to Jimbo.
Yes. I got to go Lane here. I've seen him do it from a coordinator standpoint. So I'm doing it from a head coaching standpoint just a week ago or 2 weeks ago in Oxford. Yeah. A&M's just stuck in football purgatory. I mean, it truly is. They're not in heaven. They're not in hell. They're just there. Would you rather have Joe Milton or Max Johnson as your starting quarterback in Knoxville?
Give me big arm Joe. He could throw it 90. I'm buying into the hype now this week going against Jimbo. Give me Milton.
Yeah, dude. Yes. Yeah, screw A&M, dude. Screw Jimbo. Screw Max Johnson. I would go Max. But again, I saw him play at LSU, and I thought he was pretty awesome. And then finally, would you rather make $7 million to coach Florida or $9 million to coach Mississippi State?
Give me the 7 to coach Florida. I think I could do a lot better than Billy Napier. Let me tell you that.
No, man, come on. Look, Starkville's not that bad. And look, $9 million. I mean, you want to fire me, you're going to have to buy me out. It's the college coach's dream. We'll see you tomorrow for some more Rivals Down South.